I was trying to figure out at what point I first asked you about what I thought was Katy Perry's song that you had lifted called I Kissed a Girl. But it turned out it was you who wrote I Kissed a Girl first.
Well, yeah, it was just the song title. Mine was in 1995, and it was actually the first song that had kind of a same-sex or queer, uh, outwardly themed a song that was on the top 20. And at that time in 95, it was, it was banned on a few stations. It was, there was one station that put a disclaimer in case you had kids in the car to warn you to shut it off. But it was also freaked out the station, I'm at my record label, because we did a video. If anyone saw, I did a really hysterical video with Fabio, if you remember Fabio in it.
I sadly do, yes.
Yeah. Well, the idea of the video is I was going to actually have a kiss, and it was going to be the first with another girl, and it was going to be the first one on TV, on MTV or TV at all. I don't know. But then the last minute, the label chickened out, and they made me pregnant with Fabio's baby. Yeah, it
What?
was a bummer.
No.
But so
So
years
wrong.
later, Katy Perry came out with her song, and when she and hers was like a bigger smash than mine was. And there was Kiss the Girl Wars. It was so funny. Some people are saying, oh, hers was just was just about titillating your boyfriend, and Jill's was a real kind of revolutionary one. Then there were other ones that said the opposite, but it was kind of a pain in the ass. But it really, they were different songs, but the title was the same, even though her A&R person was my A&R person. But the best thing of the whole thing, even if it was a pain in the ass, was there was a lot of 13-year-old girls that accidentally bought my record. And that was kind of fantastic. So go, Katy Perry. But when she put out her record, where she used a bunch of titles of other songs like California Girls, I Kissed a Girl, I had this funny idea I never did, of taking some of her other titles and just writing completely new songs just as a goofball thing. But I never did.
No. You work hard at your song titles, as I recall. Like, where did the inspiration for something so eloquent as Mexican Wrestler come from?
Well, there's some songs that you spend days or a month or 6 months on, and then there's songs that take a moment. And Mexican Wrestler was one of those. It was just I had a breakup. I was feeling shitty. I had this old rhythm box from the 70s that I got at a thrift store, and I started pressing like the bossa nova or some rhythm. It was just so cheesy. And I started singing just la la lyrics and things just on the top of my head. And I somehow taped it on the phone, and I was like, wow, there's something there. And so it was one of those songs that was magical. And I wish that happened a lot more often, because I'm waiting for that to happen right now. The creative process is a trip, you know.
Well, some things happen in life and they just inspire us, like the song that you wrote from an election that said something about taking America back. How do you remember that goes?
Well, it was written for it was an assignment to write a song about anti-immigration sentiment in the United States. And I thought, well, I would just write a song about the history from the Dutch and the Germans and the Irish. Here's what I do sometimes is I write, a lot of people write with a hook first. And I always write like I'm writing a short story. I write with the verses first, and then I don't know what the for example, I had wait, remember the Garden of Eden before Eve hung out with that snake. You could walk down the street, not worry about thieves. All the kids could go trick or treating. Then those foreigners started coming in, like the Germans in 1790. The Irish arrived, the potato blight, neighborhoods started changing. So I had these kind of lyrics, and it was like, oh, sometimes I think, or I always tell people in my songwriting classes, just come up with something catchy that you repeat all the time. So my course was, when they say we want our America back, our America back, our America back. When they say we want our America back, well, what the do they mean? And you know, that song, wherever I go, that people that know me, it's a huge sing-along. It's like my kumbaya. It's fantastic to watch the people sing along. And people love to cuss in a song.
And not even in a song, but it helps when it's in a song.
Well, last week, someone asked for it, and I noticed that someone had brought, like, there were two girls who looked like they were, 9 or 10. I don't know. I can't tell. And so I was about to do it, and I stopped and I said to the parents, is it okay if I cuss? And they go, oh, they've been singing that song for a long time. Go ahead. So I got permission.
Well, we're kind of in, everybody's holidays are mushing together this year. Everybody's holidays are kind of mushing together. And you did a great video and a great song with your mother about a Saturday night event she used to have, or a game she used. I don't want to give this whole thing away. Help
Oh
me.
yeah, my mom, and she would come to the EG conferences, and she went to one TED with me. Mom, she wasn't a professional singer, but I would have her, she would write a couple of songs, and she actually performed one of the EGs with me, and everyone loved her. If you Google Jill Sobule and Mahjong, you will see a great video of my mother. She wrote the lyrics, all my Mahjong friends have died. And so it's like her game started getting smaller and smaller, and it's really dark humor and very funny, but I miss her very much. And she was very beloved by the EG conference.
She was. She was a character. I
She was
remember.
a character, and it was great. My mom said it was true. She goes, Jill, when your shows start getting redundant or boring, you just bring me up, don't you? Yeah. I go, yeah, yeah, you're my one-trick pony. Thank you.
One of those EG conferences, you put together an all-star band. Do you remember that? Or was it TED?
It's a TED Active.
TED Active? Tell us about that band that we got to see that popped
Oh, well,
up.
they asked, it was when it was it was at Palm Springs, and that's when Ted was at Long Beach, and they asked me to put together a band, and I put one of the most amazing bands. It was Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine on guitar. We had Wendy and Lisa, who were in Prince's Revolution band. We had St. Vincent. It was pretty fantastic, and we just did bad covers, and it was I wish we would have taped it back then.
It was so
I
much
know there's
fun.
some coverage somewhere, but that was what was kind of great. It was in those days and earlier TED days when you never knew what you were going to expect. Like, no one was rehearsed, no one was rehearsing their speeches. You could sometimes get really bad ones, really good ones, but it was great in that way. There was always surprises along the way. And I was so glad I was there at that time to be a part of it, singing for my supper.
Well, for me, you were a huge part of that TED experience because you were that kind of secret sauce after we had watched, another technology something and our heads were going to burst. And then we'd come into the room in the cocktail party or whatever it was, and there you'd be with these wild people being just outrageously perfect.
Oh wow, thank you. It was a really good time. I was just thinking about speakers who there were times when there was, do you remember Hans Rosling when he talked? What was it? Physicist, like, hey, his 20-minute talk for 15 minutes, it was so above. It was like so above everyone's head, and you could tell people are just kind of spinning, kind of trying to tuning out, trying to get back in. And at the end of his speech, he was like saying, I know this is really heavy. And so this is the most straightest looking Northern European man you've ever seen. And he like ripped open his shirt and he had like sparkle undershirt, and he took a sword and he swallowed it. And it was like, oh, that's the best speech I've ever seen in my whole life. That was so great. Has anyone swallowed a sword today at yours?
Not so far, but we're not done yet, so there's still time. Yeah, it could be you.
Maybe I'm going to learn. Now that my mother's not around anymore, I need a new trick.
Well, you've kind of segued from lots of things, but certainly you've segued onto Broadway, and you did it in a big way last year with a show called what exactly?
Oh, there's cussing. Seventh grade, and it wasn't on Broadway. It was off Broadway in the
Well,
East Village,
Broadway
and we
adjacent.
we did our fourth run in just this last November, and that was really, really fun. And we were nominated for a Drama Desk Award, and we're just this little theater that had absolutely no money, and we were up against. We didn't win, but we were up against Some Like It Hot and all these Broadway shows, and
Right.
and I was the star of it. It was my, kind of autobiographical, and the great thing about it was, I talk about like everybody else, seventh grade, especially girls. Boys is a little later, but seventh grade is the most miserable year ever for everyone. But at the time, you think you're the only
Time
one.
out. They're applauding.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really about that. But the wonderful redemption story is that there was a group of girls that were so mean to me and bullied me so, so bad. They were awful. So, and this was in Denver, Colorado. So this last weekend, I played Denver, and all those people were invited. They came to the show and they paid $50 a piece to have me rip them apart. It was fantastic. And the meanest bully of all, she was there, and now we're like this. But you realize that they all turned out to be kind of good people, that we were all assholes, or mean or miserable, and that if I would have known that, it would have been much better. But
Is there a song from that or a refrain from that you can give us from that seventh
well,
grade?
some of it is back catalog stuff. I'll do a little verse and chorus of this song was, you know, my first breakup. And my first breakup wasn't romantic. It wasn't with one person. It was with that whole group of girls. And this one's called Strawberry Gloss. And I wanted it to almost be kind of, a lot of it's kind of punky, but this one was more Burt Bacharach-y. Retainers and braces for all pretty faces, startup bras, shirts made in gauze on a soft focus field with the sunset behind, strawberry gloss. Older girls with the sun in hair, then my best friend Became aware of the boys after school. She began to wear strawberry gloss. Then the chorus, someday, someday, some way, love will be calling, and I will be falling, and sometime I'll find someone to love me too. And the band is really good when they play it.
So now you have a new show that's in the works, which is why we're doing this at this time of day, because you just finished up with the rehearsal, I think.
Yes, and this is called, it's a kind of a takeoff on, it's kind of a young adult rom-com of the Scarlet Letter, and it's
Oh.
called Crimson Lit. So, and we're doing a reading of it tomorrow. We've had all week. It's amazing what people you can do, like 4 hours a day. We started Monday, and then tomorrow is the reading. And we'll see. It's kind of a little waiting for Guffman. You always hope there's someone at the reading to say, I really like that show. I'd like to produce it. But the theater world is not doing well these days. It's really hard. I tell my theater friends, this new world, I'm over the music industry and going into off-Broadway theater because it's so lucrative, I hear, and they're
Ha ha ha.
but it is, a lot of theaters are closing, and it's a tough time for the arts in general, actually.
Let's kind of bring that home. It is a tough time for the arts in general. What can we do to be besides bringing you out here, which we're going to try to do? What can we do in general to be more supportive of the arts? Buy more theater tickets?
Well, the arts, you've got artists, and now with things like Spotify and songwriters, no, it used to be there could be middle class artists, and now it's either, that 0.0001% of the Taylor Swifts and the Beyoncés, and that make a lot of money, and that your average songwriter now with the streaming services. So sometimes going to people's Patreon sites, giving $5 a month, or going out to shows. People don't like to. Someone told me we want to bring the show to Los Angeles, and someone said the problem with Los Angeles is that in New York, you're competing with other theaters or clubs, things people do. With Los Angeles, you're competing with people kind of not wanting to leave their house. And I think that's true in a lot of places. So I think the thing is to, maybe get music off the person's website, or, go on their Patreon. I mean, Spotify is really awful. Go on their mailing list. It's a really hard time, and everyone I know is having a really hard time. So I thought I'd leave you with something positive. I said a boom, boom, crash, crash underneath the overpass, but the building's flying glass. Good life. On the day the earth stood still, we won't have to pay our bills. As the mud slides down the hill, a good life. We won't have to make our beds, break out the booze, and like I said, let's have a ball before we're dead. A good life, let the pious rise above. We'll go down in our sweet love. It was a good, and let's sing, it is a good life. 1, 2, 3, it's a good life. You can sing, it is a good, good life. It is a good life. Here comes the big end, it is